What is the most important aspect of the radius? What makes this place so confusing and hard to study? What holds this place together on both a story level and a world-building level? The radius monsters? The anomalies? Actually, it's time. Time is the most important aspect of the radius, as it holds the key to understanding how the entire lore and the world itself operates. Here is what we know about time in the radius. First, we need to understand what time is. Time is a constant, non-existent property of nature that operates around the realm of reality. Everything in our universe is affected by time, but nothing within reality can affect time. It is not something that has a physical presence, and yet we feel the presence of time. Things get old, age, and eventually break. This cannot be stopped or warped. Time is nothing more than a measurement of existence. From the moment you are born, you are measuring your existence by counting your birthdays, or you could be counting down the hours to get out of school. Maybe you only have 10 minutes to get to work. We count down how much existence we have left until the tide moves in. We measure our life and the existence of others around us through time. That is all time is, a form of measurement. However, what would happen if the pattern of time breaks? When we look around the radius, it is not hard to see that things are different here. Time still flows through us normally, but not for things around us. We hear sounds like trains, doors, cars, and many more things all around us, but never seem to find any source of these sounds. That's because time is not flowing the way it should. Allow me to draw it out for you. Let's make a circle. This represents our universe. Everything we are, the world we live in, and everything else is contained within the universe. Now I'll draw an arrow through the circle. This represents the flow of existence and the passage of time. It moves in a straight line, constantly moving and affecting everything within the universe. Now I'll make another circle. This represents the Pachorsk anomaly. When we draw a new arrow of time, the arrow will enter the anomaly, but instead of flowing straight through, it will start to loop, spin, warp around itself. It becomes a tangle of measurements and timelines. Eventually, the arrow will have to leave the anomaly and continue straight, just as it's meant to. This is how time operates in the radius. It's constantly looping around and overlapping itself. Something within the radius has the ability to manipulate time. Now I'll add one more arrow. This is our existence. We start our time outside the zone where time is normal. But when we enter the zone, we experience the loops, overlaps, and folds in time, and we do so until we leave the radius again. How do we know this is the case? May I present Exhibit A? Almost every top priority mission uses the same theme of overlapping time. It starts at Mission 1. On this mission, we find a statue talking about a missing part for a power station. From Katya's journal, we can see that this missing part caused a power outage. We did nothing to affect this event, but simply witnessed a part of it. Mission 2. We take a roll of film from the truck depot. We also find a statue talking about a film that he lost. This is the same film that we recovered. Mission 3. Actually, nothing involving time happens here, I think, so moving on. Mission 4. We locate a neon artifact in the ruins of an unfinished building. Here, we can find a statue that mentions seeing a light in a second story of the same building. Later in Katya's note, it is explained that this man investigated the light and discovered an armed man and green smoke that choked him out. We are the armed man this individual saw. The rest of the top priority missions have similar events. We do something or take something that correlates to an event of the past. These events are overlapping time anomalies. An event of the past is affected by an event of the present. There are several ways that this happens. Events that we witness, events that witness us, events that we affect or trigger, and looping events. Events that we witness are the most common of time anomalies. A good example of these are sounds without sources. These can be found everywhere, but there's a few that you can find on a frequent basis. In the truck depot in Promove route, you can often hear typewriters and someone writing on a chalkboard. We are hearing the sounds of office workers performing their duties in the days before the radius. If you approach the digging machines in the quarry, they can suddenly fire up and sound like they are moving. Of course, they do not actually turn on. What we are hearing are the machines operating in the past. And of course, when we break the statues scattered around the radius, we often hear conversations or words spoken in private. As for the events that witness us, we can find these fairly common as well. When you walk along the train track, you can often hear a train drive by, frantically honking its horn. This is the train driver honking at you to get off the tracks before the train hits you. To us, we see nothing. But to the driver of the train, he just ran over somebody on the track. The same thing can happen on roads. You can often hear cars blaring their horns at you for the same reason. To them, they see a guy walking along in the middle of the road. The top priority mission, Flash in the Dark, is the best example of this, as a man from the past investigated a light in a construction site and saw green smoke filling the building as well as an armed man rummaging around inside. This man got a glimpse into the future, when we are gathering an artifact from the anomaly cluster. The events have very little impact on the outcome of the world. People see some guy walking around and that's about it. Nobody bats an eye when they hear about some stranger wandering around in the woods. But when we start doing things that cause events in the past, people tend to take notice. The tape recorder from the quarry office, the box of money from the factory, the roll of film from the truck depot. All of these missions involve us taking something directly from the past. This means that some objects can be in 2 points in time at the same moment, and can also be taken away from one point and brought up to another. But this is not a one-way path. We have also sent objects to the past. In the mission Farewell Feast, we placed several items on a table while a party is going on outside. Among these items are a pair of grenades. After the last item is set on the table, the 2 grenades explode in our face. At the same time, the explosion is felt on the same point of time as the party. The blast kills 2 people and injures several more. One explosion felt in 2 moments in time. The fabric of existence overlaps itself in many ways, affecting events, items, people, and even places in mysterious ways. But what would it look like if 2 different moments in time fell in sync? This is what happens in the final top priority mission Ouroboros. In this event, there are 2 times happening at once. In one, we follow Katya through the castle to reach the heart of the radius, fighting off countless hostiles as we navigate the dark castle. On the other timeline, Katya is following something through the castle to the center of the structure. She can't get a good look at the individual who's guiding her, but does see a light that leads her through the ruin. And this light is Explorer 61. We follow Katya, and Katya follows us. Two events feeding off of one another in a loop. This is technically a paradox, but I don't think the radius cares. This is called a causal loop temporal paradox, where an event from the future causes an event of the past. In turn, the event of the past causes the event of the future. Both moments exist and function separately and together. They cannot function without the other, and the origin of the events will never be found. I also need to point out that not everything is trapped in the time mess. Explorer 61, lots of items found in the radius. Everything outside the zone are still on regular time. And it should also be said that the overlapping time situations only happen in small pockets around the radius at any given point in time. But there are multiple happening within the zone at any given time. Time is an important foundation stone for our reality, but the radius has clearly rejected our reality and replaced it with its own. Who knows what this phenomenon could be capable of? Will we ever be thrust through time? Or will we continue taking things from the past, leaving people in a state of confusion? Will we ever be able to map out how time has looped around the radius? I guess only time will tell.